I was 18 years old, sitting at our kitchen table that spring morning, holding the acceptance letter from State University in my hands. My heart was racing. This was everything I had worked for, everything I had dreamed about since freshman year. I could already see myself walking across campus backpack, slung over my shoulder, finally becoming the first person in our family to earn a degree. I slid the letter across the table to my parents, waiting for their smiles, their pride, their congratulations. My father picked it up, scanned it briefly, then set it back down. His face was stone. "We are not paying for this," he said. My mother nodded in agreement, adding that I should work full-time at the family cafe, instead of wasting money on something impractical. The room felt colder suddenly. I did not understand yet that this moment would define the next decade of my life. Before I tell you what happened next, and how this decision destroyed our family, let me know where you are watching from in the comments below. Hit that like button and subscribe, because what my parents did after I became successful, you will not believe it. But first, let me take you back to where it all started, that cafe, those long shifts, and the moment I realized my parents had a favorite child, and it was not me. Our family ran Mountain View Cafe, a small coffee shop tucked away in the suburbs of Oregon. The place was nothing fancy, just 12 tables, a worn counter, and the smell of fresh brewed coffee that had seeped into the walls over the years. My parents, Frank and Linda, had opened it the year after they got married, pouring every dollar they had into making it work. They were not rich, but we were not poor either. We lived comfortably in a modest 3-bedroom house 5 minutes from the cafe. There was always food on the table, always heat in the winter. I had been working at that cafe since I was 14. At first, it was just weekends, washing dishes in the back, wiping down tables, learning to work the espresso machine. By the time I was 16, I was running the morning shift on Saturdays, opening up at 6 a.m., serving the early crowd of joggers and commuters who needed their caffeine fix before starting their day. I never complained. I thought this was what families did. You helped out. You contributed. You made your parents proud. My younger sister Natalie was 3 years behind me. She was 15 that spring, a sophomore in high school, captain of the cheerleading squad, popular, always surrounded by friends. She rarely worked at the cafe. Maybe a few hours here and there during summer break, but nothing consistent, nothing demanding. My parents never pushed her the way they pushed me. I told myself it was because I was the older one, the son, the one who needed to learn responsibility. I told myself a lot of things back then to make the inequality feel normal. The truth was, I loved my family. I wanted them to be proud of me. When I brought home straight A's, when I got accepted into the National Honor Society, when I won the regional business competition my junior year, I waited for them to celebrate with me. They would nod, say, "Good job," then immediately pivot to talking about the cafe, about inventory, about the new supplier who was charging too much for milk. Their world revolved around that cafe, and I kept hoping that one day they would see me as more than just another pair of hands to work the counter. 3 days after I received that acceptance letter, I sat down with my parents in our living room. It was a Friday night, late after we had closed the cafe for the day. Natalie was upstairs in her room, probably texting friends or scrolling through social media. I had spent those 3 days doing research, preparing my case like I was presenting a business proposal. I had the numbers written down on a notepad. The tuition is $18,000 a year. I began keeping my voice steady and confident. With room and board books and fees, it comes out to about $25,000 annually. I know that is a lot. So here is what I am thinking. I can take out student loans to cover part of it. I will work part-time during the school year, full-time in the summers. If you could help with maybe $15,000 a year, I can make the rest work. And I want to study business management. When I graduate, I can come back and help grow the cafe. We could expand, maybe open a second location, really build something. I looked at them, hoping to see a flicker of excitement, maybe even pride that I had thought this through so carefully. Instead, my father leaned back in his chair and crossed his arms. "College is a waste of money, Otto," he said flatly. "Look at us. We built this cafe without degrees. You do not need to sit in some classroom to learn about business. You learn by doing, by working, by getting your hands dirty." "But Dad, the world is changing," I tried to argue. "A degree opens doors. It gives me options." "Options." My mother cut in, her voice softer than my father's, but no less firm. "Your father is right, honey. The cafe is our legacy. We need family we can trust to help run it. We need you here, not off chasing some fantasy." "It is not a fantasy," I said, feeling my frustration rise. "It is an education. It is my future." "The cafe is your future," my father said. "You work here full-time, or you figure it out on your own. We will not support this foolish dream." I tried a different angle. "What if I take out loans myself? I just need you to co-sign." My father shook his head. "We are not co-signing anything. If you want to waste money on college, you do it without dragging us into debt." I was 18. I had no credit history. No bank would give me a loan without a co-signer. They knew that. They were effectively blocking every path I had. "So what am I supposed to do?" I asked, my voice breaking slightly. "Just forget about college. Forget about everything I have worked for." "You work at the cafe," my father repeated. "That is what you do. That is what family does." I left that conversation feeling hollow, but I still held on to a thin thread of hope that maybe they would change their minds, that maybe they just needed time to think about it. 2 weeks later, that thread snapped. I was upstairs in my room, supposedly doing homework, but really just staring at the acceptance letter I had pinned to my bulletin board. I heard voices drifting up from the living room below. My parents were talking to Natalie. I did not mean to eavesdrop, but our house was small and sound-traveled. "Have you thought more about which colleges you want to visit?" my mother asked. "I really love UC Berkeley," Natalie said. I could hear the excitement in her voice. "But I know it is expensive." "Do not worry about that, princess," my father said. "We will make it work. Your education is important." I froze. "Really?" Natalie sounded surprised, but happy. "But it is like $35,000 a year." "We have been saving for your college fund since you were born," my mother said. "You focus on getting good grades and finding the right school. We will handle the rest." I felt like someone had punched me in the stomach. They had a college fund for Natalie. They had been saving for her education since she was born. But nothing for me. Not a single dollar. I could not stay quiet. I walked downstairs, my footsteps heavy on the stairs, so they would hear me coming. When I entered the living room, all three of them looked up. "You have a college fund for Natalie?" I asked, trying to keep my voice level. My father's face hardened. "You were listening to a private conversation." "Answer the question," I said. "Do you have a college fund for her?" My mother sighed. "Otto, it is complicated." "It seems pretty simple to me," I said. "You have money saved for her college, but you told me you would not pay a single dollar for mine." "Natalie is different," my mother said carefully. "She has potential. She is going to do great things. You are more practical. You are good with your hands, good at working. College is not for everyone. You are a boy, Otto," my father added. "You are strong. You can work. Natalie needs our help more than you do." I stood there looking at the three of them. My parents, who were supposed to love me, supposed to want the best for me. And my sister, who just sat there not saying a word in my defense. "Got it," I said quietly. Then I turned and went back upstairs. That night, I lay in bed staring at the ceiling, unable to sleep. Everything became crystal clear. I was not their son. I was their employee. I was the backup plan for the cafe, the reliable worker they could count on to show up and not ask questions. Natalie was their daughter, their hope, their future. I was just there. I made a decision that night. I would stay for now. I would work at the cafe, but I would not stay forever. And I would prove to them, and to myself, that I was worth more than they believed. The next 3 years blurred together into an endless cycle of early mornings and aching feet. I started working full-time at Mountain View Cafe the week after graduation. My former classmates posted photos on social media from college orientations, dorm rooms, football games, late-night study sessions. I posted nothing. I showed up at the cafe at 6 a.m. every morning, unlocked the door, fired up the espresso machine, and worked until 3 p.m. When the afternoon shift took over, my father paid me $9 an hour minimum wage. I worked 40 hours a week, sometimes more. After taxes, I brought home about $1,400 a month. I paid my parents $300 for rent and food. The rest I saved, spending as little as possible. I bought books on business management, marketing, and accounting from used bookstores and online. At night, after everyone else had gone to bed, I taught myself what I would have learned in college. I took free online courses through Coursera and Khan Academy, watching lectures on my laptop, taking notes by hand, quizzing myself until I understood every concept. I slept 5, maybe 6 hours a night. I was exhausted all the time, but I refused to give up. This was temporary. It had to be. Meanwhile, Natalie thrived. When she turned 16, my parents bought her a brand new Honda Civic Silver with a sunroof. I still rode the same beat-up bike I had gotten in 9th grade. When I asked my father if I could borrow the car occasionally to get to the library or run errands, he said, "You have a job. Save your own money and buy your own car." I did not argue. What was the point? Natalie left for UC Berkeley the fall after she graduated. My parents threw her a going-away party, invited all the relatives, gave her a new laptop, and cried when they hugged her goodbye. I worked the morning shift that day, then came home to see the tail end of the celebration. Nobody mentioned that I had once wanted to go to college too. Nobody seemed to remember or care. Our family dinners became quieter. My parents asked me about the cafe, about inventory, about whether we needed to order more coffee beans. They asked nothing about me, about what I wanted, about how I was doing. We existed in the same house like polite strangers who happened to share a kitchen. 3 years crawled by like this. 3 years of serving coffee to people who were living the lives I wanted. 3 years of watching my sister post photos from campus, from parties, from internships, and study abroad trips, all funded by the college account my parents had carefully built for her. I turned 21 in March. Nobody remembered except Marcus, a regular customer who came in every morning for a double espresso and a blueberry muffin. Marcus was in his mid-40s, ran a small marketing company in town, and had always been kind to me. Over the months, we had talked during slow periods. I told him about teaching myself business concepts. He seemed impressed. "You know, Otto," Marcus said one morning, sliding a business card across the counter, "my assistant just quit. I need someone smart, someone willing to learn. The pay is $45,000 a year. You would be working with real clients, learning the industry from the ground up. Interested?" I stared at the card. This was it. This was the door opening. "I would have to quit here," I said. "That is generally how new jobs work," Marcus said with a smile. "Think about it. Let me know by the end of the week." I thought about it for approximately 10 seconds, but I knew I had to tell my parents. That Friday night, I asked them to sit down with me after dinner. Natalie was back home for spring break, sitting at the table scrolling through her phone. "I got a job offer," I said. "A good one. Marketing assistant at a local firm. It pays $45,000 a year." My father looked up sharply. "You are quitting the cafe." "I would still help on weekends if you needed me," I said quickly. "But this is a real opportunity. I can learn actual business skills, build a career. After everything we have done for you," my father's voice rose. We gave you a job when you refused to be realistic about college. We put a roof over your head. And this is how you repay us. You did not give me anything. I said, my own voice, rising to match his. You paid me minimum wage for 3 years. We gave you a home, my mother chimed in. And you gave Natalie a college fund, a car, and every opportunity I never had. I shot back. The silence that followed was deafening. This is betrayal, Otto, my father said coldly. Pure betrayal. If you leave, do not bother coming back. I looked at my mother, hoping she might intervene, might soften his stance. She just shook her head. You are abandoning your family. Natalie would never do this to us. I looked at my sister. She finally glanced up from her phone. He is right, Otto. Family comes first. Something inside me shattered. Not my resolve. My last remaining hope that they might actually care. Fine, I said. I will be out tonight. I went upstairs, packed everything I owned into 2 duffel bags and a backpack. It all fit easily. I did not have much. As I was leaving, I passed my father in the hallway. He did not say goodbye. Neither did my mother. Natalie sent me a text as I walked out the door. You are being selfish. I blocked her number. I spent that first night on Marcus's couch. He and his wife Rachel insisted I stay with them until I found a place. You did the right thing, Marcus told me. Family is supposed to lift you up, not hold you down. The next 5 years were the hardest and best years of my life. I worked for Marcus for a year, learning everything I could about marketing, client relations, and business development. I lived in a tiny studio apartment I could barely afford, ate ramen more nights than I care to remember, but I was free. After a year, Marcus promoted me to marketing coordinator and raised my salary to $60,000. I started saving aggressively. By my second year, I was taking advanced online courses in digital marketing, spending my evenings and weekends building skills. By year 3, I started taking freelance projects on the side, building a portfolio, making connections. At 24, I made the terrifying decision to start my own marketing consultancy. The first 6 months were brutal. I had maybe 3 clients and worked 80-hour weeks just to keep them happy. But slowly, steadily, the business grew. I hired my first employee at 25. By 26, I had a team of 5 and was pulling in a solid 6-figure income. I bought my first house at 27, a small 3-bedroom place in a quiet neighborhood. It was mine. Nobody could take it from me. During those 5 years, I did not speak to my parents once. They did not call. They did not text. I saw through social media that Natalie had graduated, gotten engaged, started working at some tech company in San Francisco. I felt nothing when I saw her posts. These people were strangers now. I built a life without them. Marcus and Rachel became like family to me. My employees became friends. I started dating Sarah, a graphic designer I met at a networking event. She knew my history, knew I came from a complicated family situation, and she never pushed me to reconcile. You do not owe them forgiveness, she said once. You only owe yourself peace. I was finding that peace. Slowly. And then, on a random Tuesday afternoon when I was 27 years old, my phone rang with a number I did not recognize. I answered. Hello. Otto. The voice was my mother's, shaky and uncertain. It is Mom. I went completely still. For a moment I could not speak. How are you? She asked, as if 6 years of silence was normal, as if we were just catching up after a busy week. I am fine, I said carefully. What do you need? Cannot a mother call her son? She asked. After 6 years, I said. No. What do you want? There was a pause. Then she said, Your sister is getting married. My mother went on to explain that Natalie had gotten engaged to someone named Derek, that they were planning a wedding for 8 months from now, that it was going to be beautiful. She invited me to attend, said it was time to heal, time to be a family again. I told her I would think about it, and ended the call. I sat in my office for a long time afterward, staring at my phone. A week later, she called again. This time, her voice was different, urgent, almost desperate. "We need to meet Otto," she said. "It is important. About the wedding." Something in her tone made me agree. We arranged to meet at a neutral location, a coffee shop called Riverside Brew across town. Not their cafe. Somewhere with no history. That Saturday morning, I walked into Riverside Brew and saw them sitting at a corner table. My father, older now, more gray in his hair. My mother wearing the same nervous expression she always had when something was wrong. They stood when I approached, and for an awkward moment, none of us knew what to do. We did not hug. We did not smile. We just sat down. "You look good," my mother offered. "Thank you," I said. "What is this about?" There was no point in small talk. We were past that. My mother glanced at my father, who was staring down into his coffee cup, like it held the answers to life's greatest questions. "We need your help," my mother finally said. "With what?" "With Natalie's wedding." I waited. "She wants to get married at a resort in coastal California," my mother continued. "It is beautiful, right on the ocean. She has her heart set on it. The guest list is 250 people. The venue, the catering, the flowers, the photographer, everything together comes to about $200,000. I blinked. $200,000 for a wedding. "It is what she wants," my father said, speaking for the first time. His voice was defensive. "It is her special day." "We have saved $65,000, my mother said quickly, "from what was left of her college fund and our savings. But we are still short." I had a sinking feeling I knew where this was going. "How short?" I asked. $135,000, my mother said. I laughed. I could not help it. It was not a happy laugh. It was the laugh of someone who finally understands the punchline to a very long, very cruel joke. "Let me get this straight," I said slowly. "You want me to give you $135,000 for Natalie's wedding?" "We know you are doing well, Otto," my father said. "We have heard things. We know you have your own business, that you are successful." "You have been checking up on me?" I asked. My mother had the decency to look embarrassed. "We just want to know how you are doing." "For 6 years you did not care how I was doing," I said. "But now you need money, and suddenly you remember you have a son." "This is not about the money," my mother tried. "It is absolutely about the money," I cut her off. "If it was not, you would have called me on my birthday, or Christmas, or any random day in the past 6 years just to say hello. But you did not. And now, you show up needing $135,000. "You owe us," my father said flatly. "I owe you," I repeated. "We raised you. We fed you. We gave you a place to live. We gave you a job when nobody else would hire an 18-year-old with no experience. You paid me minimum wage to work at your cafe while you saved for Natalie's college." I said, my voice rising, despite my efforts to stay calm. "You kicked me out when I tried to build a future. You told me I was not worth investing in." "That is not fair," my mother said, tears starting to form in her eyes. "What is not fair?" I said, standing up, "is asking me for $135,000 after refusing to give me a single dollar when I needed it. Please, Otto." My mother was crying now. "We are desperate. We do not know what else to do. Natalie will be devastated if she cannot have the wedding she wants." "Then maybe Natalie should have a wedding she can afford," I said. My father stood up too, his face red. "If you do not help us, you are not welcome at the wedding." "I was not planning to come anyway," I said. "You will regret this," my mother said through her tears. I looked at both of them. These people who were supposed to love me unconditionally. These people who had shown me over and over again that their love came with conditions I could never meet. "Do you remember what you told me when I asked for help with college?" I asked quietly. They both went silent. You said, and I quote, "We are not paying for this. You are on your own." I paused, letting those words hang in the air between us. So, here is my answer, I said. I am not paying for this. You are on your own. My mother gasped. My father's jaw clenched. I worked minimum wage at your cafe for 3 years, while you saved for Natalie's college. I continued. You kicked me out when I wanted to build a life. You did not call once in 6 years. Not on my birthday. Not on Christmas. Nothing. And now you want $135,000. No. Natalie can have the wedding she can afford, just like I had to build the life I could afford. Alone. You are being childish, my father spat. I was 18, I said. I had a dream, and you crushed it. Natalie is 24. She is an adult. She can make adult decisions about what kind of wedding fits her budget. I pulled a $20 bill from my wallet and put it on the table for the coffee. Goodbye, I said. I walked out of that cafe and did not look back. My phone started ringing before I even reached my car. I declined the call. It rang again. I blocked the number. Then another number. I blocked that one too. A few hours later, Natalie sent me a long text message. It was filled with words like selfish and cruel and heartless. She said I was ruining her wedding, ruining her happiness, that I had always been jealous of her. I read it once, then blocked her number too. Marcus called me that evening. I told him what happened. There was a long pause. Then he said, "You did the right thing, man. Family is not just blood. It is who shows up for you." The wedding happened 8 months later. I heard through a mutual acquaintance that they scaled it down to about 80 guests and spent around $50,000 total. Natalie still got married. She still had her special day. She just had a realistic version of it. I did not lose sleep over my decision. For the first few weeks, I felt a strange mixture of relief and sadness. Relief that I had finally stood up for myself, finally drawn a line. Sadness, because somewhere deep down, a small part of me had still hoped they might change, might apologize, might finally see me as more than a tool they could use. But they never did. And I realized that was okay. The months after that confrontation were strange. I kept expecting to feel guilty, to second-guess my decision, to wonder if I had been too harsh. But the guilt never came. Instead, I felt lighter. For the first time in my life, I was not carrying the weight of their expectations, their disappointment, their conditional love. I threw myself into my work, into my friendships, into building a life that felt authentically mine. Sarah and I got serious. She met Marcus, and Rachel met my employees who had become like family, and she fit right in. "You have built something beautiful," she told me one night, as we sat on my back porch watching the sunset. "Not just your business, your whole life. You should be proud." I was proud. Not because I had money now, or success, or a nice house. I was proud because I had done it on my terms. Nobody had handed me anything. Nobody had paved the way. I had stumbled, fallen, gotten back up, and kept going. And somewhere along the way, I had become someone I actually liked. Marcus and Rachel invited me to Thanksgiving that year. Their kids were there, their extended family, and they introduced me as practically family. I helped Rachel make the mashed potatoes and listened to Marcus's brother tell terrible jokes. It was warm and loud and chaotic and everything a family gathering should be. Nobody asked me for money. Nobody made me feel less than. I belonged there, not because of blood, but because they chose me, and I chose them. I started running in the mornings, joined a local running club, made friends with people who knew nothing about my past, who just knew me as Otto, the guy who always showed up on time and pushed himself a little harder each week. I took up meditation, went to therapy, to work through the years of feeling inadequate, of believing I was not enough. My therapist helped me see that my parents' inability to love me the way I needed was their failure, not mine. One evening, about a year after that coffee shop confrontation, I was sitting in my home office when I got an email notification. It was from LinkedIn. Natalie had viewed my profile. I stared at it for a moment, then closed the notification without responding. I did not block her on LinkedIn. I did not reach out. I simply acknowledged that she was curious about my life and moved on with my evening. Sarah moved in with me about 18 months after the wedding incident. We talked about marriage, about kids someday, about building our own family on our own terms. I want our kids to know they are valued for who they are, not what they can do for us, I told her one night. She squeezed my hand and said, "They will, because you know what it feels like to not have that. You will be an amazing father." I thought about that a lot, about breaking cycles, about being different than the people who raised me. I am 30 now. My business is thriving. I have 12 employees, clients across 3 states, and a reputation for delivering quality work. I own my home outright, paid off the mortgage last year. I have investments, saving security. But more importantly, I have peace. I do not talk to my parents anymore. I do not know if the cafe is still open or if they sold it. I do not know if Natalie is happy in her marriage or if she ever thinks about the brother she lost. And honestly, I am okay with not knowing. Their lives are not my responsibility. Their choices are not my burden to carry. People sometimes ask me if I regret cutting them off, if I wish things could have been different. The truth is, yes, I wish things could have been different. I wish I had parents who celebrated my successes instead of resenting them. I wish I had a sister who stood up for me instead of against me. I wish I had grown up in a home where love was unconditional and support was freely given. But I did not get that family. And spending my life wishing for something that never existed was only hurting me. So I let it go. Not with anger or bitterness, but with acceptance. They were who they were. They made their choices. And I made mine. The greatest lesson I learned through all of this is that family is not defined by blood. It is defined by who stands by you when you need them most. It is defined by who celebrates your victories and mourns your losses. It is defined by who sees you, truly sees you, and loves you anyway. Marcus and Rachel are family. Sarah is family. My employees who stayed late to help me meet a deadline, who cheered when we landed a huge client, who brought soup when I had the flu, they are family. The friends I made in my running club, the neighbors who water my plants when I travel, the barista at my favorite coffee shop, who knows my order by heart, they are all more family to me than the people who share my DNA. Saying no to my parents that day was the first time I truly said yes to myself. It was the first time I chose my own worth over their approval. And that choice changed everything. Success is not about proving people wrong. It is not about rubbing your achievements in the faces of those who doubted you. Success is about proving to yourself that you were always enough, that you always had what it takes, that the only approval you ever really needed was your own. I built a good life. Not a perfect one, but a good one. A honest one. A life where I do not have to shrink myself to make others comfortable, where I do not have to earn love through labor, where I am valued simply because I exist. Sometimes the people who were supposed to lift you up are the ones who teach you how to fly on your own. And maybe in some twisted way, that is the greatest gift they ever gave me. The motivation to become someone who would never make another person feel the way they made me feel. I do not talk to them anymore. And honestly, I am at peace with that. Because I finally learned the difference between being someone's son and being my own man. So let me ask you, have you ever had to choose between family loyalty and your own future? Have you ever had to walk away from people you loved because staying was destroying you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. And if this story resonated with you, hit that like button subscribe to the channel, and share this with someone who needs to hear it. Your support means everything and helps this channel grow. Thank you for listening to my story, and I hope wherever you are in your own journey, you find the courage to choose yourself. You deserve that. We all do. Take care of yourselves out there.